Let's say you're being transitioned to a new customer, like from another CSM, or you're just taking on new customers. One of the things that I recommend is you think about the company and start there. I have this 3C framework that stands for company, customer, and challenge. Company is just focusing on what that company do. What products do they sell? How long have they been around? What's the essence of that company and what do they stand for? It's good to understand more about the company. And then getting a little bit deeper into the company is the customers. Who buys from them? What type of people are they? Are they real estate agents, construction workers? And they could be end consumers. That's really helpful. And then you want to think about how your customer refers to their end customer. In the healthcare industry, they might call them patients. They might call them guests. I work with e-commerce brands, and a lot of times they refer to their customers as she does this and she does that. Knowing those make-ups between company and customer, then you can start to speak in their language. And then that gets into building trust because they feel you understand their business. And the third part of this is challenge. I'm not talking about challenges with your product, just challenges in their business. Like what's going on? It could be that they're launching new products. It could be that tariffs are affecting their business model. It could be that they're laying off people. It could be that they're raising around or something to that effect. So you really want to know all of those. And once you get there, you can start to blend in like, okay, how does your product fit into all of this? And from a strategic CSM point of view, you should be starting there, and that up levels you and up levels the conversation right away.
Welcome back to another episode of Spotlight, powered by CSM Focus. I'm your host, Emma Lowe. Today, I'm here with a special guest, my very best friend and mentor, Chad Horenfeldt. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you, Emma. So happy to be here and chatting with you.
Today, we're going to talk about something that's close to my heart. And just a little background, we know that most CSM are really busy, but are we effective? Today, we're going to talk about Chad and his new book called The Strategic Customer Success Manager. And we're going to talk about something that we all feel, but don't always fix, how it gets stuck to the day-to-day life, reacting, following up, putting out flyers, but are we looking at the bigger picture? So, Chad,
Yes.
do you want to talk about yourself and why you started this book?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much, Emma, for having me on. My name's Chad Horenfeldt. I'm the VP of Customer Success at Sienna AI. So Sienna is the AI operating systems for CX teams, but specifically in the e-commerce space. I've been in the sort of CX technology area for a number of years and in customer success for a couple of decades. Yes, so I've written a book called The Strategic Customer Success Manager. It's about advancing your career, elevating your impact. It was written specifically for customer success managers because I've felt that there's a lot out there, but it's not necessarily giving practical techniques for CSMs to improve. I have a lot of experience and wanted to share that in various forums and thought the book would be a good way to get that message out there.
Why we're not strategic enough. You mentioned that there's a lot of talks about there and the reason why you want to actually share your practice.
I think it's a good question. Back a little bit. I was told that I wasn't being strategic enough. It's similar to many other people. You may be given that feedback, but not necessarily given any advice in terms of how to improve. It sort of became a project where I wanted to understand that better and look for ways to improve. This morphed into how I can help other people as well. One of the things I would say is, first of all, understanding like, what does it like being strategic mean? What I like to do is break down that definition into three different areas. I've typically taken this definition by Rumlet, author Richard Rumlet. He wrote Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And it talks about how you need to understand, what are the core challenges? What are those objectives to take on those particular challenges and the action plan to achieve that? If you think about those different things, it really very much applies to a customer success manager and even beyond that to your daily life. Like, when it comes to particular customers, like, all right, like what are those things? Like, why did they buy you in the first place? What are those challenges? What are they trying to actually achieve? What's going on in their particular situation? And then the objectives are typically what I call business outcomes. What are those key high level targets they're trying to achieve? How do you measure those? What does it break down to the specific goals to achieve that? The last thing is where people might fall down on is that we might give our clients advice and we're like, hey, you should do this and do that. And a lot of times it doesn't land. We think it's land because we think, here's what other customers have done. And I'm telling you to do these things. You have to create an action plan and make sure you keep your customer accountable. Just me saying that seems very straightforward and easy, but the actual execution of it is very hard. For the CSM and that role, it's even harder because you're getting bombarded with all these different things. How do you keep all those things straight? And how do you ensure that you're actually delivering that value and being strategic? And I think the other part of it is leaders focus on end goals and they hire people, put what they feel is a strategy in place, but they don't necessarily put the scaffolding in place to help the CSM and their greater CS team achieve that. I think that's the missing piece.
You touched base about how the leadership should work. I know you have also led CS at multiple companies like customers, Meta, even now. Have you seen the mindset change? Have we recognized that? What is not changing fast enough? What are we missing? What we're still talking about this today as a leadership standpoint?
We're in an interesting time, I'd say an inflection point in companies, customer success. And what I mean by that is like, we came out of COVID and, interest rates went up, getting cash to grow companies is not there as it was. It's put a lot of downward pressure on senior leadership to do more with less. We had a lot of people come into technology, specifically customer success, because it was booming, which was great to see. But really when rubber started hitting the road, it was challenging in terms of how to actually execute, especially when it's difficult times. And so there's a lot of problems there. Where customer success and the leadership has had to change, not just about the traditional customer success. It's like hiring, P&L around hiring. How many do I have to hire? What's my travel budget? And now with the advent of AI, there's a lot more that you can do in terms of leveraging AI to improve where you focus your time at the leadership level and at the CSM level. And it's thinking through how to leverage that most effectively. On the customer side, the customer seeing reductions in their workforces. They're using more applications, so they don't have as much time to focus on a particular vendor. That puts pressure on the CSM to make sure they are working at a strategic level so they stand out and they're not just seen as noise, but actually providing value and helping the customer achieve their actual goals.
What AI is a blessing and a curse is help us to work faster, but also, like you said, creating more noise. And all we have is more vendors. So like you said, how to lay out that action plan to show you're actually more impactful. How do you be more impactful? You did mention something called 3C method in your book. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, let's say you're being transitioned to a new customer or you're just taking on new customers. One of the things that I recommend is you think about the company and start there. I have this 3C framework that I use that stands for company, customer, and challenge. Company is focusing on what did that company do? What products do they sell? How long have they been around for? What's the essence of that company? And what do they stand for? It's good to understand more about the company. And then getting a little bit deeper into the company is the customers. Who buys for them? And actually back to the company, like what are the products that they sell? So like understanding that product makeup and how they go to market. And then on the customer side, it's like who buys there? What type of people are they? Are they real estate agents, construction workers? Just knowing they could be end consumers. That's really helpful. And then you want to think about how your customer refers to their end customer. In the healthcare industry, they might call them patients. They might call them guests. I work with e-commerce brands, and a lot of times they refer to their customers as she does this and she does that. Knowing those make us between customer and customer, company and customer, then you can start to speak in their language. And then that gets into building trust with the customer because they feel you understand their business. And the third part of this is challenge. I'm not talking about challenges with your product, just challenges in their business. Like what's going on? It could be that they're launching new products. It could be that the tariffs are affecting their business and their business model. It could be that they're laying off people. It could be that they're raising around or something to that effect. So you really want to know all of those. And what's really important, you need to start with understanding their company and who they are. And then once you get there, you can start to blend in like, okay, how does your product fit into all of this? But from a strategic CSM point of view, you should be starting there, and that up levels you and up levels the conversation right away.
Also learned that, for example, the stadium, Blue Jays, they call all their customer guests as well, like creating a best guest experience. The same thing
Very
with
good.
Cineplex, using the word guest as well. So it's really interesting how they refer to a customer. Another thing, we're both in e-commerce. We've been instilling how the tariffs is shifting and there are new dates coming out that things might be shifting, and understand how that affects our customers.
When you start to get into that mindset, little things that they bring up to you, like they want a feature request or they're complaining about something, and you're kind of like, why does that matter? Well, it matters because their end customer, they perceive quality as something that's really important to their business. It's part of their cultural mindset, or their CEO is really geared on going IPO and they're cutting back on certain expenses, which affects you. Maybe you need to make sure that you come out with really good or competitive pricing as part of your renewal. All of these things factor in knowing their business before you even get into your product. Because I think the challenge from a CSM perspective is, again, like there's so many things coming at us. I don't blame the CSM because I've been there and I get it. It's easier to default to things that we're comfortable with. We all do this in our daily lives. It's more comfortable to jump on Instagram and start doom scrolling because it's fun. There's some funny cat videos and everything, but that's not going to get your job done or accomplish much except giving you that temporary sense of joy. The harder thing to do is to ask difficult questions of your customers and not necessarily say to them, hey, I see you're not using this part of the application, or it looks like this metric has decreased. What you want to do is kind of, if you understand like maybe seasonality of their business, hey, listen, I understand holiday season is really important to you. It looks like you guys are gearing down for the summer. Let's talk about things you can do to prepare for the holiday season. Let's set up time in the schedule. Let's make sure I understand what key products you're going to be selling or key driver points that we want to hit on so you're ready and you're going to kick butt in the holiday season. So that's just a different approach rather than, oh, I see you're not using this. We have this new feature. You should really use this new feature. It's awesome. Other people are saying that. And it's like, if I'm a customer, great. That sounds cool. But you're making the customer do the mental math as to why that feature is really cool. A better approach is you have this new person joining your team. We've implemented this feature. It's going to make it easy for new team members to leverage our product. I really think that we should talk about this. I can show this to you. This thing is going to give you really great new insights. It's a new reporting feature. This is going to save you probably 3 hours a week. If you phrase it like that, as a leader or someone who buys technology, I will get on a call with you and talk to you about this because you're going to save me time. This is great. I shared something on LinkedIn not too long ago from a vendor I work with, and I anonymized everything. It was basically like, hey, let's get on a call and talk about how you're using our product. I have new things I want to show you. First of all, thank you for reaching out. I was being very polite. Maybe you can look at how we're using the product and make some recommendations. They did that. It took them 2 weeks, which is hilarious. They came back with horrible recommendations because they didn't know our business. I don't even think they looked at how we're actually using the product. We came up with a list of things like, oh, here's things that you should do. It took for me to tell them that these are some interesting ideas. Maybe I should be looking at your competitors to see how they do it as well. Then I got other people involved. They responded to that and they did come up with some concrete ideas. But like, it shouldn't have to get to that. We all need to be better. And we need to be thinking about, if we want a meeting with our client, I talk about this in the book, we should be thinking about almost like athletes. A meeting is like our game day. It's like the Stanley Cup or the NBA finals. Everything you're doing is gearing up to get a customer to come to that meeting. When you're in that meeting, it's your time to shine. If you screw it up, maybe your point of contact won't, but if you get a decision maker or senior executive and you're not ready, not providing something of value, they're not going to come back because they don't have time. An easy way to tell is if they jump on and then somebody turns off their video or puts themselves on mute, you've pretty much lost. Kind of like an athlete, go back to the game tape, go look at your recorded and see what was that inflection point. Like, why did that person turn off their video at that time? Maybe they had to go. We need to break down specifically how we're performing. The purpose of the book is to try to uplevel the CSM, give them tips, help them be more productive and feel how they're contributing and that they're doing more on a daily basis and using their time better so that it's going to help them in their role. It's going to help their company. It can be better contributors in their company. And hopefully it will help them in their career.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I love the example you shared. So I just want to jump on a call and show you what we do. And you mentioned actually you should be talking about you as the customer, how we understand your business. I see you're working on this. This is the things that might help you. I noticed that with the executive at the beginning, if you see they signed on, they're all on the meeting. Then later on those meetings, even though they're standing monthly meetings, they logged off because they don't feel value of their time. And when it comes to renewal, it's like you already lost them, right? So another thing you mentioned is about the QBRs. There's a lot of talk online. It's like how, like you mentioned, the executive don't care about how many team member logged on to their meetings. What do you think we could do better at a QBRs level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we talk about QBRs, people focus.
Sorry.
The word, it's okay. Yeah, the word quarterly sucks when it comes to quarterly business reviews. But in the book, I focus on the word review. I think the word review is flawed because you're looking backwards. You should be thinking about when you go into a QBR, what are you trying to achieve? What are the next things that you want your customer to do to achieve their business outcomes? That's how you should be thinking. And it's like you want to put together a joint plan. And so with that changed mentality, the way I look at it is thinking of it almost like a board meeting. In a board meeting, you typically send your slides out ahead of time to your board. And the idea is that everyone reviews that. The meeting itself is a discussion around some things they want to focus on. It's more of a discussion rather than the CSM going through a generic set of slides, talking about metrics the customer doesn't really care about, and then hoping for the best at the end. So the information is good, but you've basically railroaded your client and thrown so much at them, focusing, trying to really think about what did I get out of this? But are you actually setting yourself up to deliver value that's going to lead to retention and growth? That's the key point. And this is all about being more strategic, using your time more wisely, and thinking about the QBR in a different way. At my last company at Path Factory, we started to rethink this. One person I worked with, James at Path Factory, he's like, hey, let's call this strategic checkpoint. QBR has been called executive business reviews and all these different things. But strategic checkpoint was really cool because, first of all, it blended this idea of it being more strategic, and it removed the word review. It's like, we're going to up-level this conversation. We just then restructured the whole thing so that it focused on, what is the plan? Like, what are the one or two things we can do? We've had a discussion around your performance and confirmed or redid your business outcomes. What's that one or two things that we can work on that's really going to move the dial? We did see an increased amount of decision makers attending, which was phenomenal. One thing though is you shouldn't gauge your success around decision maker attendance to QBRs or whatever you're going to call them. Because I know Christy Falterizzo, she's said this many times. She's like, I don't attend QBRs. I don't want to attend QBRs. For the CSM, that doesn't mean you should say, see you later, decision maker, I don't care about you anymore. It's more so of like, how do you tailor your communications so you keep them in the loop, or you communicate with them directly, or you communicate through your points of contacts. Even recently, there was some challenges I had with some of our customers where came to renewal and we're working with a decision maker. The decision maker is like, well, this is all great. I hear good things, but I don't know if I want to pay you this amount. The challenge is that we had a great relationship with point of contact, working with them really closely, being mindful of their time, trying to really help them, providing a lot of value. But that particular person wasn't necessarily communicating that value up through the chain. At the end of the day, that's the SM's job. They need to make sure that that's happening. What I talk about in the book is not just delivering value, but selling value, making sure you're enabling your point of contact to show that value. One of the things we do today, we're a young startup at Sienna, we're seed stage, we're growing rapidly, but we're implementing these things in stages. That's another key thing for leaders listening in. Don't implement all these things at once. You have to layer them in, communicating up to the rest of our executive team, saying that, hey, we can't make this huge transformation all at once. So one is like we split out implementation so that we took that away from the CSM so they can focus more on the optimization and renewal phases. Then we started putting in business reviews and audits, and we call these strategic engagements. Now we've built out an ROI calculator, and we're blending that into our conversations so we can give that to our customer, and they can then take that and sell that value back. And we'll either communicate that directly to the decision maker or go through the point of contact. You also want to look for other ways to engage your senior stakeholders. You can have an executive business or executive sponsor program. You can have a customer advisory board. You just engage them in different ways. You can create an executive community. You can invite them to events and have them speak on panels. We say customer success is not a department, which is really true. But as a CS leader and the CSMs themselves, they can help orchestrate this. I think that's another key part of the book. A lot of times CSMs are waiting for their leaders to tell them what to do. Like, my leader didn't tell me that, so I'm not going to do it. Really, that's not the case. You should be doing what you can, and you can force a lot, and you can also build up relationships with other departments. And that's also a key part of being a strategic CSM that a lot of people may not realize. It's not just about what you're doing working with your customers. It's the relationships you're building with product, with sales, with marketing, with finance. That will help show the impact and create more impact within your organization. And what, I've seen this because I've been at companies like Meta. There's only so many people that can get promoted. It's just the reality. In order for you to be better and to be on that list, you have to make the case, not just to your manager. Other departments will be determining, yes, I think that person should get promoted. I've seen what they've done. They really helped out in these areas. You'd really need to be working cross-functionally to help yourself in your.
Yeah, don't wait for instructions. You have to be accountable for your own career and growth.
If you think about driving a car, the car is your career. You're the driver. Your manager is the passenger. Don't wait for your manager to get some magical email. That usually doesn't happen. You need to be thinking, here's a problem in our business. This would be a great area that we can expand into. Going back to my days at Eloqua, we had one person there, Heather Fay, who had joined the company, and she was a CSM and then a CS leader. And then she's like, we really need a community here. We need customer marketing that needs to improve. And she went to her manager and said, I want to do this. And eventually she got that role. And that's really what she does now in her career. At been many companies, she has been customer marketing, the community leader, and she's built a career out of it. She had that mindset and she's done very well there. It was perfectly suited for her. It's just a really good example of you own your career, be the driver.
I met Heather and totally agree what you said.
Heather's awesome. I talk about Heather in the book because she was the first customer I had at Eloqua. So interesting. So she was a customer and then she joined our company. And then she was a customer of mine when I was at Influitive later on. I see her on Instagram. I love Heather. She's awesome.
This also shows how you build relationships actually beyond, right? You become customer, friends, and maybe like team members, or you don't
Yes.
know how to.
So what's one of the things that's so fulfilling as part of this book process, I'm really overjoyed with it. It's like tears of joy. I have customers reaching out years ago that I work with, and they're saying, "Hey, I loved working with you when we did, and really happy to see that this book's come out." It's just really cool to reconnect with people. We talk about this idea of customers for life, and I think the term is actually misused. Businesses think of it as, okay, they're going to be customers for life. Sometimes that person will leave and go to another company and then bring you there, which is cool. But the way I like to think of it is like they're almost like my customers for life, like lifelong relationships. Wherever I go, they're not my customer at my next company or whatever, but I still think of them as a customer and really want to continue that relationship. I think that's a really good mentality to have. And for customer facing role, it's really cool to see how that's happened. I do mention some customers in the book, and that's probably what has made it somewhat more appealing is that a lot of the things that you'll see in the book are through my eyes, like you're going through a bit of history through my eyes. And there's some interesting stories in there. If you've been a CSM for more than a day, it makes it really interesting and appealing and resonates with people.
Do you have a favorite chapter?
I like chapter 9, where I get into building unbreakable relationships with clients. One of the things I talk about is extreme ownership, really taking responsibility and accountability. Let's say like product release is a really crappy release and customer's really angry. Or the easy thing to do is to say, well, product screwed up or engineering screwed up. The harder thing to do is take responsibility and say, you know what, we screwed up. I'm going to update you on when things are fixed and not throwing your company under the bus. Because again, like the CSM role can be really hard. It can be really stressful and it's easy to blame everybody else. The harder thing is to take the high road, work through it because the customers don't care who caused the problem. They just care about getting this resolved so they can get on with their day, see their family, play pickleball, whatever they want to do. I think the other thing is extreme ownership for you as a person. I had an example this week where I screwed up. I was on a call and I wasn't really happy what was going on. And I communicated, via Slack, something more harsh to that person. And there was somebody else on that Slack chain. And that was the wrong thing to do. I let my emotions run my thoughts and actions. I immediately reached out to that person. I got on a call with that person and I apologized and just said that was really unprofessional. I'm sorry. Here's why. And I'd love to hear kind of more what's going on in your world, so I can better understand it. And so stuff like this is going to happen. People make mistakes, but it's really important to take ownership of it. We're all leaders. You don't have to have a title like a VP or director or manager. We're all leaders, especially if you're a customer success manager. You lead your book of business and the voice of the customer. And you represent that in your company. Take that on, read the book, Extreme Ownership, great book. The other one is this idea I call radical customer candor, stealing from Kim Scott's book on radical candor. You just need to be candid with your clients, but do so in a way that you care. So first, establish a relationship of trust. You build that relationship, keep your word when you say you're going to do something. You point out things that might be problematic for the client. You should configure this and that would improve this. But when a customer says something stupid or wants to do something that's just completely insane, you don't just say, you say, listen, don't do that. It's going to totally screw this up. You've told me these are your goals. Don't do that. Here's how other customers have done that. And here's what's gone wrong. So you have to be candid with your customer. You can't be what I call the entertainer. You can't be someone who gets on and is the counselor for your customer and tell you how their job sucks and stuff like that. You can do that in trust, but you also have to be like the parent and say, don't do that. That's dumb. That's not going to help you. And if they don't listen to you, then you need to make sure that message is heard. You may have to go above them, a way that doesn't embarrass them. I had a situation like that this week where there was a bug and we have a Slack channel for our support. The point of contact complained and the boss said, hey, why did that happen? The problem was that my point of contact did something wrong and that's what led to it. So I DM'd the point of contact and said, listen, here's the problem. Here's what you did. Let's talk about how we can handle this better so everybody looks good. We made sure that the decision maker knew it wasn't our fault. Look, these are the reasons why I don't think AI will ever replace CSMs, because there is that little, nuances that I think are really hard. It will replace the easy things like just solving stupid questions and telling customers.
Follow emails.
AI will take care of all of that. It will guide customers, do audits and tell them, hey, you should be using these areas here. It'll be very prescriptive. And if the customer provides inputs and maybe we'll pull in like call notes and tickets, it'll be amazing. And it'll talk to you as well because AI voice is phenomenal. But I'd say that when there are problems and they really need to get to a more of a strategic environment, understanding that down to the customer's key areas and also these larger customers, you're going to need a CSM, you're going to need a strategic CSM. And it's almost like you're that hired gun coming in and making sure that the trains are running on time. All these things we talk about in the book will shine more of a light on that. If you're looking for your next opportunity or trying to get in to being a CSM, knowing these skills and having these things as a mindset is critical. Like you have to have them. It's like table stakes. It's not just knowing what ARR is and running a business review and talking the talk. You have to walk the walk.
I like the analogy of using board meeting, strategic checkpoints, being a driver of your own career and take that accountability and also understand the customer team. And I love the example you just shared, how we make sure that we have the same examples as well. Something happened and how we can actually help him look good in front of his boss. That's what it calls a partnership. You're really building a partnership, not just a relationship manager, but partnership with your customer and then other teams as well.
And back to that radical customer candor, you shouldn't be hesitant to go over your point of contact if you don't feel that they're thinking big enough. A lot of times people are protecting their areas, or especially with AI, they don't want to change because if they have to change, it might result in maybe their budget being cut, maybe some people being let go. I mean, these are the realities and they're not great. But at the end of the day, your product is there for a reason. It is driving a particular outcome. If you don't drive that outcome, they won't renew and they won't grow. You won't have a job. That's just the reality. You have to be thinking how to accomplish your goal in the best way possible. It's not just about reporting up to your boss. Oh yeah, I had a call with this customer. They're really happy. They really like us. And, I think we're good for the renewal. And then you get a churn notice. You have to move beyond that, make sure you understand what they're trying to achieve and measure, confirm it, and then sell it. One of the things I love that one of the CSMs on our team does is they confirm what those key outcomes are. And then they have a measurable metric against it. So for us, it's like driving up automation rate by X amount by a certain date. And then what this person does is message in the Slack channel, hey, you've achieved 50% automation rate in Q2. That was what we wanted to achieve by the end of Q4. So you're 2 quarters early in terms of what you wanted to achieve. That's freaking awesome. And that's what I call an affirmation, because you're making the customer look really good, your point of contact. You're communicating it up through the chain to their boss. Everyone sees it, and then you're selling that value. And so you're putting everybody in a good mood. The CSM's done the right things to make sure that you're achieving the end result. These are all really good things. Communication is really key. And that way you're definitely being more of a strategic mindset.
It's just really great advice. So communicate the affirmation, confirm what had achieved so far. Everybody needs a little bit of that. Just make people look good in front of their boss.
It's a psychological technique that's used, and it's talked about in the book as part of this, something I call ORS, which, it's part of having conversations with clients, but it is a proven technique that's used to help people to change. And it's why I wrote the book, because I was using some of these things, not fully understanding what I was doing, and I wanted to write them out as a mechanism to help others. I'm very passionate about customer success. One of my core values is helping others. It's a mission for me. So it's been a lot of work to get this book out, crazy sacrifices in many ways, but I'm happy it's finally here.
Looking forward to your official launch as well.
You can go to any Amazon and search for Strategic Customer Success Manager. You can go to my site at Strategic Customer Success. There will be discounts, and I highly encourage you to look at the book, look at the reviews. A lot of really great reviews out there on the book, blowing my mind. In fact, in terms of how it's been resonating with people, feel free to reach out, connect on LinkedIn as well.
Yep. And don't forget to share your review after you read a book and tell us what you think. As we were wrapping up, I have this question I always ask my guests. What keep you focused on being strategic? Is there one advice give the audience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's just, I have this curiosity to keep learning. My advice to people is to read business books, just make it a daily habit. I have something called Readwise, which is a cool thing that if you highlight things in books, then Readwise, you can read your highlights, daily highlights from your books. It just builds the right habits, and reading compounds. If I reversed my career by 20 years, I would be reading and reading and reading like every day, make it a daily habit.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book, oh my goodness. It's probably the one that had the biggest impact, I'd say, Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. Just the whole idea around vulnerability and the fact that I wasn't vulnerable and why. It just like broke down things from my past. So she's kind of like this tour de force in terms of an author and a person. So that was mind blowing for me. I'd say Atomic Habits is another really good one as well, focusing on systems, making sure your systems are right. If your systems are right, then you can achieve your goals and outcomes. This is why you should read, because it inspires you and drives you.
For sure. Remember to pick up Chad's book, but also check out Atomic Habits and Dare to Lead. Thank you so much for your time, Chad.
Thank you, Emma. This is great.